So some viewers of this channel often ask us why with a channel called VisualPolitik we make videos about companies. For example, we've already talked about Amazon, Inditex, and Tesla, among many others. Well, we do this for two fundamental reasons. Now, the first one is that we see politics in a broad sense, and this means that we can't talk about politics without considering economic and social issues. And of course, I don't think we can deny the huge influence that big companies play on our lives today. Secondly, we know that many of you love these kinds of videos, so we keep making them. And you know what? Well, we like these kind of videos too, so here we are. So in this video, we're gonna have a pretty interesting combination. We've got the company of BMW and the countries of Germany and China. As we mentioned here at VisualPolitik, Germany is the mother factory of the world. It's the place where machines and the things that go into the other things that other countries produce are manufactured. And of course, of all of the industries, the automobile industry is without a doubt the most famous and also the most peculiar. We all know that brands like Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen, Porsche, Opel, and Audi are all German. And this is because Germany isn't only one of the largest car producers in the world, it is also considered the cradle of the first car. Yes, you heard that right. In 1885, a German engineer called Carl Benz tried to place a combustion engine into a three-wheeled chariot. This was known as the Benz patent motor wagon, and it was able to reach an astounding speed of 16 kilometers an hour. In total, 25 units were manufactured, and in one of them, Bertha Benz, Carl's wife, made what is considered the first car trip in history for a distance of actually 94 kilometers, which isn't bad. Now, there's something you might be thinking about right now, and that's that, well, back then there were no petrol stations. So how exactly did Bertha Benz refuel? Well, she did this by buying a petroleum derivative in pharmacies called ether. That's right, we could say that pharmacies were the first gas stations in history. But, of course, that's not the reason why cars in Germany are quite so important. You see, because more machines are always needed, the automotive industry, dear viewer, is one of the most productive and most capitalized. So, well, what better place to manufacture them than Germany, the country of machines? However, despite all of this, let's just say that in recent times, the German automotive industry and the European automotive industry in general hasn't been the most popular one.
In danger of extinction?
In recent times, there has been a widespread feeling that the traditional automotive industry, and especially, as we said, European manufacturers, will be the big losers of the upcoming electric car and autonomous car revolution. Because who would want one of those old companies when we have fresh, innovative companies like Tesla? Now, this is something we've actually talked about on this channel not so long ago. Despite never having made any money and producing very few cars, Tesla has a market value that is as large as that of BMW, and which is far superior to companies such as Renault or Peugeot. So, how is this all possible? Well, as we saw, basically because many investors consider that in a few years Tesla will literally take over the market. And here, dear viewer, is where questions begin to arise. Will the electric car transition really be that quick? Are European manufacturers too late to join this revolution? Well, I don't know what you think, but some information at least does not seem to support these ideas.
According to a recent study from the IFO Institute, Europe owns almost half of all patents related to the electric car, leading the world ranking and being well ahead of countries such as Japan, 23%, and the United States, 18%. Yvonne Martin, President and Chief Investment Officer of Magallanes Value Investors.
Well, for now, let's assume that Elon Musk is right and Tesla manages to overcome all of the problems that currently affect it, for example, the production of the Model 3, and thus fulfills his most ambitious forecast, managing to sell 2 million cars in 2022. This means that he would have to multiply his production capacity not by 2 or by 5, but by 20 in just over 4 years. Well, in that same year, at least 110 million vehicles are expected to be produced in the world. Honestly, when we consider the strong growth of the middle class in emerging markets, I would actually bet on a far greater vehicle production than that, but let's just be prudent and stick with that number. Out of those 110 million cars, no more than 20% are expected to be electric cars or even just plug-in hybrids. So what exactly does that mean? Well, what it means is in the best case scenario, Tesla would have a market share in the industry of less than 2% and 9% in the electric car market. In other words, we could say that the cards they're not even dealt yet, and that even if Tesla's best forecasts are met, there will still be many companies in the market, companies such as BMW. BMW is one of the great icons in German industry. Robust, luxurious, and technologically advanced cars. Who doesn't want a BMW? See, in 9 of the past 10 years, this brand has been the world leader in premium cars. And the truth is that this is pretty interesting. See, this company, besides owning BMW, also owns Mini and Rolls-Royce, and at the time of publishing this video has a market value that is very similar to that of Tesla at about $50 billion. Despite this, both companies have many differences. While in 2016, Elon Musk's company managed to sell 76,000 cars while losing $770 million, the German company sold 2.36 million cars and had a profit after tax of more than $7 billion. Alright, so now I know what many of you are probably thinking. Wait a minute, Simon, this isn't a fair competition. Tesla is currently investing in research and they're developing new technologies, while BMW makes the same cars they've been making forever. Well, it isn't actually quite like that. Let me explain. In 2016, for example, the German group invested more than $5 billion in research and development. Meanwhile, Tesla's investment was 5 times smaller, at slightly less than $1 billion. And of course, a lot of that BMW investment money is going to developing electric and autonomous models.
BMW to spend $237 million on battery cell center.
And that's not all. Okay, so here's a question for you, and please do not Google it and cheat. Which company, BMW or Tesla, do you think is going to sell more electric cars in 2017? Now, many of you are probably betting on Tesla right now by a lot, right? Well, wait just a second, because the truth is that taking both electric cars and plug-in hybrids into account, both companies are actually very close. Now, it does look like Tesla is going to win this race with a few weeks left in 2017, but it's seriously close. In fact, both companies are expected to close 2017 sales with approximately 100,000 electric cars sold. Yes, okay, so I'm sure some of you are going to argue that Tesla has stored a lot of its Model 3 cars, which in principle translates into sales for the next few years.
The Model 3 will be new territory for CEO Elon Musk and Tesla as a company. The sedan has already received at least 400,000 pre-orders.
That is true, but the German brand also hopes to improve its numbers. In short, as we always say here at VisualPolitik, the future is by definition uncertain. Tesla could be a great company, but it's not going to be the only one. The truth is that by selling almost as many electric cars as Tesla, by investing 5 times more in R&D, and by earning a cumulative profit of more than $30 billion in the last 5 years, I think we can say that BMW is at least a very important competitor. In fact, it is surprising that both companies' market value is practically the same, considering that expectations for one are so much higher than they are for the other. This is especially when we consider that in recent years BMW has become a major and very important player in the Chinese market.
The Great Chinese Market.
Since 2007, and despite the international economic crisis, the BMW Group has managed in less than 10 years to increase the number of cars it's making from 1.5 million in 2007 to 2.37 million in 2016. And of course, that translates into more income and also more benefits. See, BMW's net benefit, that is, the money that's left for the company after taxes, has more than doubled in this period of time. Check out this graph. Looking at that graph, we could say that things have gone rather well for the company. Well, one of the pieces that has greatly aided this progress is actually China. Take a look at how their market has evolved. In 2016, it managed to sell 500,000 cars, out of which 300,000 were manufactured in China itself through a partnership with a local company, and 200,000 were imported, mostly from factories that the company has in Germany. In other words, 1 out of every 4 cars sold by the BMW Group is already in China, a market where the automobile sector will surge in the upcoming years, along with its middle class. Well, the fact is that beyond any comparison with Tesla, BMW's Chinese adventure shows us a couple of things. The first is that, far from what is usually said, China could be a great source of opportunities and wealth, something which, incidentally, we've been mentioning on VisualPolitik for quite a long time. Each year, 80 million Chinese people join the middle class, and this has very clear and obvious consequences on their ability to spend. Secondly, it is very common to hear politicians of all backgrounds arguing that in order to export more, the currency needs to be devalued. Well, Germany, in fact, they say quite the opposite. What is required isn't a cheap currency, it's competitiveness and good products. But that is something we are going to talk about another time. And now it's your turn. If you had to choose, which company would you bet on? Would it be Tesla or would it be BMW? At the end of the day, as we've seen, both have a very similar market value. So please do leave your answer in the comments section below, as well as in this survey. And I really hope you enjoyed that video. Please hit that like button if you did, and do not forget to subscribe to our channel for brand new videos every Monday and Thursday. And also check out our friends at the Reconsider Media podcast. They provided the vocals in this episode that were not mine. And as always, thank you for watching.